Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Strike Buster Prototype, a twin stick shoot 'em up. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Zero Castle Game Studio and publisher Bad Games, Strike Buster Prototype originally released for Steam in May of 2021. Now, in August of 2022, it's available for the Nintendo Switch, and that's the version that we're looking at today. So, this title is a relatively light, simple twin stick with some interesting roguelike elements. So, if that's something that sounds interesting to you, then I would actually encourage you to check out the demo on Steam, as that might give you a good idea of what kind of gameplay you have. But with that said, diving into the main menu. So, the menu is a little bit cumbersome on the Switch, and it's one of those things that initially was a little bit of a turnoff to me, but I did get used to it. So we'll start by jumping into a quick game. I'll kind of show you some of the mechanics, and then we'll go over a couple of the elements of the menu. So there are 3 different modes you can play the game in. There's the Endless, there's Custom, and this one you set your own goals. There's also a Boss Rush mode, and Hardcore as well. But for our purposes today, we'll explore the game in the main mode, Endless. Every single time you play through, you do have a choice of 3 weapons, and the weapons are relatively similar, and there's some interesting systems there. Basically, you've got 3 base weapons you can potentially obtain. At this point, for most of the weapons, I only have 2, and then you have these one-use specialty weapons you can acquire through kind of a gacha mechanic that the game itself has. So we'll start with just the basic default loadout to kind of show you what's going on. There's also relics that you can equip, and then you can select your character. So Uno is the default character. Both Reed and Valen were DLC characters on the Steam release, but they're included in the base game for the Switch release. As far as playstyles, for the most part, Reed is really similar to Uno, but Valen does change up the playstyle quite a bit. So, starting the game, we're basically dropped right into kind of what is a wave style format of gameplay, where enemies start approaching us right away. So these are like digger enemies that and we'll see different enemy types throughout the course of the game. So one of the key things to note here is you'll have to switch quite often between your 3 weapons for 2 reasons. They do build up heat and will overheat with too much use. The more powerful the weapon, the faster they'll overheat. Though there are some relics you can get, so basically items, that will mitigate that particular issue. And also, the enemies have armor type. So red enemies you'll want to use your bullet with. Blue enemies are most weak to the laser, and purple enemies are most weak to the Tesla, basically the lightning gun here. It is possible to destroy the enemies using other weapons. It will just take you significantly longer overall. There's also, as we defeat the enemies, we pick up these relics, and those can provide passive abilities, so things as simple as giving you mines, missiles, additional damage in various weapons, or even splitters, that sort of thing. Or they can be active, and the active ones have an interesting energy source. So as I attack the enemies, I fill up an energy gauge at the bottom, so each successful attack basically applies 1 energy to that, but if I get hit, then that energy bar goes down. That energy bar can also be used to activate your passive, or rather your active relics. So in this case I have this like nice black hole one where I can just like suck all the enemies into this black hole and kind of pick on them while they're getting sucked in there. This can backfire though, as sometimes if enemies are getting sucked in there, they'll hit you from behind, they'll deal damage to you that way, and well, it'll be a very quick death. That said, I do really enjoy the black hole passive, or rather active, like a relic. The missile barrage is also one that's really fun to use. A couple of the other ones aren't overall as useful in my opinion, but there is quite a few to try, so there's that. And ultimately that's the format of the game itself. So you have that timer in the middle. There is the time to the next boss, and when that fills up, the next boss shows up. But well, the death there was good timing, as we can kind of talk about the other mechanics that the gameplay has. So going back to the main menu, I mentioned that there was a gacha mechanic. So based off of your performance, you receive these trophies, as they were referred to as. And these trophies, you can select which one you want, so the Class C, the Class B, or the Class A, and then go to Open. And we'll receive weapons based off of just a random chance. Sometimes there'll be unique weapons like these ones here, or ones that have kind of relics attached to them. Other times it can just be money, or you can unlock the base other weapons like in each class, as there's 3 total. In addition to that, we also have this permission screen, and when you start the game for the first time, you don't have any of those relics I was talking about available to you. You actually have to unlock them. So as you unlock them, they will start to show up, and this is kind of a double-edged sword. The more relics you have, then the more diluted the pool is, and sometimes the ones you want to see aren't going to come up as frequently. That's something to note, but it has been fun going through and unlocking the tech tree. There's also some extras where you can unlock information and art for the various characters, so that's something that is enjoyable as well. Rankings, but as far as I'm aware, I believe this is like local only. And then a few options. Most important thing here to note is like I've got screen shake turned off, as well, it makes recording a little bit different. So now we're going to switch over to Valen, so you can get a little bit of an idea of how some of the other gameplay works. So Uno is very much a long-range, typical twin-stick shooter type character, whereas Valen is a short-range character. All of her weapons are short-range attacks, so it does change up the style, but she's more powerful as well. And we'll use some of the gold that we picked up on the last run, that's the currency that the enemies were dropping, to equip a few of the relics we have unlocked. So we can go with scattering bullets, light emitting, binary tree. This basically doubles our weapons right off the bat. We can also take, let's see, so you can see how much gold is going to cost you. And we can also increase the damage, give on a couple of them, as well as give ourselves better speed as well. So with all of that equipped, it's going to eat up most of our gold, but I think we'll have an easier time initially. We can also change the weapons and go with something a little bit more custom. So we can take the scythe here, the Fist of Justice, or this Fist of Justice, so we'll take that. The lasers, there's some unique ones like the production version Hummingbird or the Ovipositor. So we'll give that one a shot. And in the Tesla category, we've got quite a bit of options here. So for this one, we'll just go with one of the default, the Ghost Firehand. So with all of that, like our loadout selected, then we can start, and you can kind of see how different style-wise Valen is compared to the other gameplay that I had. Actually, that's a pretty cool weapon. So this is actually the first time I've been using this. Save for the base weapons, it's not actually like possible to use the weapons that have relics associated with them more than once. So after the first use, they will just expire and, well, basically one shot, and like that's it for your usage on them. It's a little bit of a disappointing system that way. You're unlocking all these like cool variants of weapons, but you only get to use them the one time. With all that said, you do unlock them at a relatively easy pace. If you have relatively good runs, you can get a lot of those supply trophies, those supply crates, and unlock more. Or for the base ones, you can use gold to purchase additional ones. And if you have weapons that you aren't planning on using at all, then you can go and sell those ones for gold as well. And that's basically what we have here for Strikebuster Prototype served up for your enjoyment. So overall, I found the game a little dull initially, but after I got started, I found myself enjoying it quite a bit more, and the challenge of getting more gold and unlocking more of the various game's unlockables. However, there are definitely some minus flavors. So the difficulty is supposed to be dynamic, and if with that being the case, I definitely feel it's the scaling feels a little bit off. So the various enemies do some of the elites come in, and the bosses have modifiers associated with them. So you can see that long string of text at the top. That's all the modifiers that this particular boss has, and to be honest, that's sometimes problematic, as you'll have a boss that will spawn enemies, spawn turrets, and heal both itself and the other mob enemies around it, making it significantly more difficult to get through a section. The next boss that comes up, it's actually very possible and likely that it'll spawn, or if there's certain elites that spawn with those kind of traits, then the next boss will be extremely difficult, as that boss has an easy time of surrounding you, making your life quite difficult, and it's quite easy to game over in that particular part of the fight. And really, I haven't gotten very much further past the second boss, as the difficulty just ramps up a little bit too extreme, and your energy does deplete quite easily. It's kind of hard to build it up to once the difficulty starts to spike, to use your special weapons. And when you do, it's kind of do you use it for your special weapons, or do you hold off and just try to survive? It's kind of a high risk, high reward kind of a scenario. But in addition to that as a problem, there's not a ton of variety, at least as far as I've played, with the base enemies and how they attack. They largely just swarm you and you follow around. So with some decent kiting, you can usually keep yourself out of trouble until you encounter a boss. The problem with the boss is they go and set field around you, though it's indicated by dots. It's sometimes hard to see, and well, you can't move past that wall. It's very easy to get trapped, and especially with a snake-like enemy like Nomad Nest here, you can easily get trapped, and well, it's a very quick game over. But on the plus side, the twin stick shoot 'em up element is actually really solid. I do like the 3 weapon system, and just how smooth the gameplay feels, and the two different play styles with Uno and Valen is definitely welcome, as you can really kind of change up how you play the game itself. Then there's also all the unlocks that are present for both unlocking the additional relics, the art, and even the weapons in the gacha system. So overall, it's a shoot 'em up twin stick that I don't think is for everybody, but if you're looking for something a little bit different with to maybe sit down with for a couple fun play sessions, then I think this one might possibly be up your alley. Alright, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope you have a wonderful week yourself, and we'll see you next time.